Extreme Sports, and this is a special edition, Stephen. Isn't this a very special evening?
Very special.
We, as folks might be able to see or hear, we do not have our dear friend Rutledge. This evening, Rutledge is celebrating his birthday, but we indeed have Stephen Kicklighter, a friend of the show, listens, and is now getting to participate and play a little band tonight. How you doing? Are you staying nice and warm up there in Georgia, Stephen?
Oh yeah, nice and warm. Thanks again for having me on. I really enjoy the show, and it's awesome to actually come on and be a part of it.
Oh, well, we are glad that you can get to be a part of it. Tonight, for all of our viewers and our listeners on podcast, we decided on this Madden game to play the game of the teams closest to our proximity. So Stephen will be representing the Atlanta Falcons this evening, and I will be playing as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, based out of Orlando, about an hour and a half away from Raymond James Stadium and Tampa Bay. So, Stephen, has it been kind of weird this year to just see no fans, or do you feel like you've kind of gotten used to it?
You know, it's actually pretty much become normal almost. At the beginning, it was a little weird, especially seeing all like the cardboard cutouts some people are doing. But I don't know. I kind of like not having so many fans in the stands.
You can just focus on the game, that's for sure. But as we start this game, actually, our first quarter topic, one of the things that when Stephen and I were talking, one of the things that Rutledge and I would always like to do is get to swap some stories and share our college glory days, because we had some pretty different college experiences. Stephen, why don't you share a little bit about your college experience? And I think we're going to be swapping some stories here this evening, but where'd you go to, talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so I started my college career at Georgia Southern with Rutledge. That's where we became friends. I didn't play any sports or anything, but I was in the marching band, so I got to go to all the football games, and that was always a lot of fun. I think one of my favorite football memories is, I believe it was the 2010 season, and Georgia Southern was in the playoffs, and we were going to Spartanburg, South Carolina, to play Wofford College.
The Wofford Terriers.
That's it. Yep. And I had never seen a visiting fan base completely take over an opponent's stadium like that before we went to that game. It was so bad. We completely filled their entire visiting stands, and I actually sat on the home side because we ended up spilling onto their home side, and it was great.
So you weren't doing the band thing that night. You were just a spectator.
Yes, this is I think 2007 was my last year of being in the band. But I just kind of hung around all my friends that were still in the band.
No doubt.
So yeah, there were so many Georgia Southern fans up there that we ended up taking over about half of their home side stands. It was crazy. I haven't seen anything like that since, except for the first time we played Georgia State in Atlanta.
But there's a patented Connor interception right there.
What? But yeah, hearing our patented Georgia Southern chant go across the field and at an opponent stadium, I don't know how it would have been to have been Wofford that day.
That's huge, though. That's awesome. That's a ton of fun. Did you ever get to go to so that was in the playoffs? What was kind of the number one? What was the farthest that Georgia Southern got while you were in school there?
We went to, I think, semifinals. The last 2 years that I was really not really a student there because I ended up kind of dropping out, but that's a different story for a different time.
Yeah,
But
different
anyway,
podcast.
that's it. But
Cool.
yeah, when I was really heavily involved with, I was still involved with my fraternity. We went to the semifinals twice. I think that was 2010, 2012, or 11. I'm not sure. We ended up losing to North Dakota State both times. So
The Bison, not to be confused with the Bison.
no, they are very particular about that.
Oh man, that's wild for sure. Yeah, no, it's my college experience. I did get to play football. I played at Division III Wheaton College. I didn't play all that much. I was a career backup. I did get one start, so and I do have. I had enough plays to make like a minute-long highlight tape from college. Um, I could fill up 1 minute of highlights, but that would probably be about it. But a lot of my favorite stories. My goodness, that was quite a drop there, homeboy. Some of my favorite stories always involved our coach. Our coaches were more like cartoon characters. It felt like than actual coaches, and our offensive line coach in particular was quite the character. His name was Coach Whitehead, Walt Whitehead. We called him Walt the Whip. He was a former Navy officer, and he would do hilarious things. And hilarious in that he was that old school football coach that would scream the most insane things at you. And in the moment, you're like, this man might actually like hurt me. Just kidding.
Right.
But like he struck fear into the hearts of his players for sure. Really nice guy. But one of the things that there was a game where we were up by a lot of points, and the young kids were in, and it was towards the end of the game, or it was what it was. It was our first game of the year, our preseason game, and the freshmen were in, and we had a play where the two guards or one guard should pull, and do what they needed to do when you pulled, and both guards pulled and ran into each other. And I never will forget Coach Whitehead, who was like the most intense, serious guy when it came to game day, literally laughing his head off, jumping up and down the sideline, saying, "We did it! We did it! We ran the play where two people pulled and ran into each other. We did it, Coach! We did it!" That was quite an experience to get to see that for sure. When you were at Georgia Southern, was there any fun stuff that the band would do, or maybe not during band practice or anything like that, but just a little tradition or a little activity that you would do maybe instead of class from time to time?
Not exactly. There's one thing that we always did pregame. It was called the GSU Scramble, and we always had a lot of fun with that. Basically, it was a drill set where everybody spelled out the letters GSU, but basically what it is we were in a set, and then they would start the drum line would start playing, and everyone would just go nuts, just running around all over the place. Like, we had people who would run 40-yard dashes, back and forth, and then like at a certain point in time of the song or in the cadence, you had to be in your spot for your letter. And it was just like people doing 40-yard dashes. They were running around doing push-ups, playing leapfrog over each other. Got the sousaphone section is like famous for all their little antics that they do. They one of them would hide a football in the bell of their sousaphone, and they would toss it around or something like that. It was something different every week, and it was just crazy.
That's fun. What was your favorite move?
I never got to participate because I played in the front ensemble, so that was basically the marimbas and xylophones and things like that. So I think one or two times we like ran around the instruments, just feel like we fit in.
Okay, okay.
But
Nice.
we weren't part of the actual drill set, so.
Ah, nice. Yeah, we one of the most fun things we would do on Thursdays before practice, we'd have a thing called the Thursday survey, and a bunch of college guys, right? It was just a chance to get to rip on each other. So you'd always get to the locker room, and there would always be a survey question, but it'd be like, you know, what's somebody going to do after they graduate college? You know, it'd always be like kind of making fun of a guy. For example, I'm a pretty hairy person. I know our viewer and our listeners maybe, won't be able to see that or hear that, but I'm a pretty hairy fella. And one of the things that we had was for Halloween, it was always Halloween lookalikes. And there was a picture of me for Halloween lookalikes in an orange shirt, and next to that orange shirt was a picture of an Ewok. Because even though I am 5'10" and thus a touch over average height for playing offensive line in college, I'm a pretty small cat. So I would always be, it's things like that. Oh, Connor is short and hairy. So that was always a pretty fun thing. But we have finished the first quarter here. Glad to hear some of your favorite memories of college. And there's some folks down in Coastal Carolina that are having quite a memorable season, Stephen. And that's the undefeated Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. I believe I said that right. Did I say that right?
That's right, the Chanticleers, or as we like to affectionately call them, the Beach Chickens.
The Beach Chickens. There you go, man, down in Myrtle Beach. So, it's always interesting, right? Whether or not it's Boise State or UCF or now potentially Coastal Carolina, asking those questions. Is this going to be just a flash in the pan? What is this group of five team kind of coming from nowhere? What are they all about? What's kind of your take on Coastal Carolina as it stands right now, and what's your take on if they could be a flash in the pan, or if this is a team that is going to be a force to be reckoned with?
It's hard to say something like that when you consider the G5, because it always seems like every couple of years it's a cycle. It was Boise for a while, then UCF for a couple of years, and now you got Coastal Carolina. So I really don't know what the formula is that makes them seem to rotate every couple of years. Maybe it's their coaches getting picked off. But I think Coastal has the potential to be in the conversation for at least the next 2 or 3 years.
Hey, so what do you think a flash in the pan means for Coastal? Or what do you think moving in that right direction? Because it's not like they went 0-12, 0-12, 3 wins, 6 wins, and now they're undefeated. Their best record so far in the FBS was 5-7, and now they could very well be the last group of 5 undefeated team left. I mean, what do you think moving forward is going to be a reasonable expectation for that fan base?
Reasonably, they're going to have to expect to win the Sun Belt every year, and that could very well be a possibility.
Wow! Even though I won't tell Rutledge you said that.
Well, I mean, hey, my Georgia Southern Eagles are right there with them. We're actually in the same division of the Sun Belt. But and the East division of the Sun Belt is so, like, from top to bottom, they're super strong. So it's going to be a tall order for them. Oh, you got to pick.
Connor getting the turnover.
No.
That's a new one. That might be a Friends Stream Sports first. Yeah, Connor actually getting a pick 6. But don't worry, I screwed the kick up as per our usual arrangement. But no, yeah, I think that one undefeated season is awesome, and it's not done yet. I think when I was doing some prep for this, I wanted to look at their two deep, and I just wanted to look at the ages of the players on their two deep, right? And they've got, I would say, one of the biggest things on their two deep that would stand to say like this could be a team to be reckoned with for a while is that they do have 12 freshmen on their two deep, including their quarterback Grayson McCall, and as you and I both know, this is football in general is becoming so much more of a quarterback-driven type situation. You got to have a good quarterback. They do have a lot of good stats, right? And I think that they will be a force to be reckoned with as this goes on, assuming that their head coach stays. So. Being a team kind of in that group of five type situation, how does it always feel to kind of be like, man, we get a good coach and he's going to go. We get a good coach, he's going to go. What does that feel like to be on that side of it?
It's kind of rough sometimes. I mean, we always talk about we got to find somebody who wants to stay, who loves our school and wants to stay, and that's just hard to do, because money talks. And college football is a business. Especially in the group of five, it's revolving door. Did you just?
I did not just get another interception. That would have been awesome, though.
Yeah, I mean it's rough.
Mm-hmm. So, totally rough. I would imagine I did get another pick there. I would imagine that I would imagine that with the South Carolina job taken by Shane Beamer, at least this season, Coastal Carolina fans can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. Wouldn't that make sense? Or have you heard anything about any of the other potential places where Jamie Chadwell could go?
I have not heard anything. And another good thing, I guess, for the Coastal fans is the type of offense Chadwell likes to run is very. It's not a triple option, but they do a lot of option plays and that sort of thing. And a lot of these Power 5 schools are just not going to run that. So for a lot of these vacancies that are going to be coming open by the end of the season, he's probably not even going to be looked at hardly at all.
Georgia Tech might still be down for an option-oriented type situation, although they did just get a new coach. No, what's interesting, though, you bring up a good point, is, although they do try to run the ball and they're not your traditional kind of spread offense type situation, right? They still have the number one scoring offense in the conference, which I think is very interesting, right? Because their offense is so unique, and now the way that college football offenses have shifted, you have a lot of offenses. A unique offense is one that maybe doesn't score all the points. A unique offense would be like Georgia Tech, or what they used to do, or Navy. But now they have, being able to have a established running game is not the normal, which I do find interesting for sure. Within that, I know you being the Georgia Southern contingent of this are used to running teams, but I think I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think it's noteworthy for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we are so close to finishing this out here. We are so stinking close to finishing this half out for Friends Stream Sports here. We have our first comment, and it looks like it's spam. So we always appreciate the spam coming into our comment section. But one of the nice things, though, is you can skip the spam and listen to our podcast or watch us later on YouTube. We're taking this into the half, 14-6 game. Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the lead over the Carolina, or not Carolina, over the Atlanta Falcons here. So we're going to kick off, and then we're going to head into everyone's favorite time, and that's halftime hot takes.
Halftime hot takes. Need a little jingle for that.
You know, that'd be great. Maybe like a bass solo.
Oh yeah.
Nice. So, when Steven and I were talking about what our halftime hot takes could be, you know, we came up with what we feel is a very appropriate and great question. And that's, you know, we want to know, and Steven, the world wants to know, and whoever put this spam on our comments wants to know, what is the most overrated and what is the most underrated football watching food?
So, if you've ever gone to a football game or been to a football party anywhere in the South, it's almost always about the food, the tailgating, everything. So, it's hard to say what's overrated and underrated, but I think my overrated is going to be pizza.
Oh.
Yeah, like I love pizza. It's great. But if you're going to be having people over, I mean, I get it if you want to feed a bunch of people for on the cheap, but it's not good. You know, when you can do something like you go big on a tailgate, man, here in the South.
Mm-hmm. So no pizza. Pizza, no good. What is the most underrated football watching food in your opinion?
We do this every year, at least once a year, for our like last tailgate of the season. My underrated tailgate food, Low Country Boil.
Don't go on.
It's so good, man. You just get a whole bunch of people, a big old boiling pot with some shrimp, some sausage and corn, potatoes, all the good stuff. So maybe throw some crawdads in there if you're feeling frisky, and you just pour it all on the table and everyone go at it, man. It's a good time.
Oh my gosh, that sounds phenomenal. I'm into that.
Yeah,
that,
man.
With a nice frosty carbonated beverage. Maybe the carbonated beverage for people 21 and up. Maybe not a carbonated beverage for people 21 and up. You know, it's all good either way. Well, good to hear. So, what'd you eat? The Low Country Boil? That's what it was called.
Yeah.
Nice. So there's Steven's most overrated and most underrated football watching food. I'm going to be pretty controversial here right out of the chutes. I'm going to say the most overrated football watching food is I'm going to go with chips and dip.
I can see that.
I'm going to go with chips and dip, and here's why, right? Anything that causes you to have to use two things to eat one thing is an issue in my book, right? You know, if you're at a tailgate, right, you gotta have your plate in one hand, you're eating your chips in the other hand. Where you're putting your drink, right? Where's that gonna go? You know, so.
And that's just the cheap cop out. I was like, oh man, I really got to bring something. Chips and dip, really?
What is it when you're planning parties? The person who you say to bring chips is always the least reliable person.
Right. Or can't cook.
Yes. So chips and dip is most overrated food. You know, with that, I'm going to say most underrated food, and shout out to my wife, Betsy. She makes, for football, it's called a buffalo ring. I'm not anti-dips by any stretch. But to be able to take that great buffalo, because really, what is a chip? A chip is a dip carrying device.
Edible spoon.
It's an edible spoon, right? So imagine get that chip out of here, you know, and being able to pick up that dip in one hand, you can still have your drink in the other hand, you can have a burger in the other hand, whatever you want, and substitute that chip for some sort of crescent pie pastry that is stuffed with buffalo chicken goodness. You know, to me, that's what's up.
Yeah, I love buffalo chicken dip, man. I make a good buffalo chicken cheese ball. That was one of my staples back in the day.
Oh, nice. Well,
That was
I
pretty
gotta
good.
send. I'll send you the recipe to the buffalo ring because I think it's gonna take your buffalo chicken to the next level.
Oh man, please do.
Will do. So that is halftime hot takes here as we jump into this second half. So we are ready. We are waiting for our peer to resume the online game.
My bad. I'm new at this.
No worries. No worries.
Uh, no, I was just over here like I wasn't even looking at the TV screen. I'm like, man, I'm kind of hungry now.
You need some buffalo chicken.
That's it. That's exactly what I need. Nice
Yes.
cold Bud Light. Mm.
Oh, we could be sponsored by Bud Light. I'm sure
It,
you appreciate me being wanting to be sponsored by reputable companies.
if you guys get sponsored by Bud Light, I'm just becoming like the third guy on the show, so I
I'm
can
down.
get on that action.
We are down for sure. So, to keep with this college football theme as we get here in the second half, not to look ahead, but I think the entire country of college football watching fans is looking ahead here. We've got two games coming up in the next 2 weeks that really are so much more important than pretty much every game this week, especially now that Ohio State and Michigan got called off, and that's the ACC championship game and the SEC championship game. So, Stephen, with the ACC championship game coming up, we got Clemson versus Notre Dame. Did you watch the first Clemson versus Notre Dame game?
I did not. I missed that one.
Oh, it was a doozy. It was, as you remember, Trevor Lawrence had COVID, so we had the Uwe
Yep.
Ungalale quarterback and doing that thing, double overtime thriller, and it was a wild game. But when you just think about this game, generally speaking, what are you thinking about when you hear Clemson versus Notre Dame, the rematch?
This is like if it wasn't already a clash of the Titans, it's even more so now. And I think Clemson is going to definitely want to come out and prove that that was just a fluke last time, and they really want to take it to Notre Dame this time.
The thing, and I think you're right, and I think the interesting thing, and it's something I talked about on the show, Notre Dame, they are a running football team. They have to run to be successful, right? They've got a lot of big players. They got a lot of big offensive linemen, and everyone talked about not having Trevor Lawrence. Let us not forget that Clemson was without their starting middle linebacker, their starting Sam linebacker, and a starting defensive tackle. So you were missing a lot of key players in the front seven that Notre Dame was quite frankly able to take advantage of. And I think I think that's something to really keep in consideration when this game happens, because you're going to want to Chris Godwin going in for the score, boom. You're going to want to make sure that if you're Clemson, man, that defense is the side of the ball that's probably got the biggest chip on its shoulder, for sure. What do you think about Notre Dame as a potential winner of this game? I mean, what are your thoughts about having them be the team to beat in this game, being as this unfolds?
I don't even know if they are the team to beat, even though they won last time. I was looking at their stats earlier today, especially their rushing stats. So this really struck me as odd. So far this year, they have 2,300 rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
Half of that has come from one guy. So, like, Kyron Williams, running back, has 1,011 rushing yards. Like, if they can't, I don't think if they can't get the rushing situation like spread out a little bit and opened up, I don't know if they're going to be able to move the ball effectively on them again, like they did last time. I think they kind of tipped their hand a little bit too much,
Yeah, no, it's one thing to talk about a great offensive line with a lot of soon-to-be NFL players, but if you are one running back getting the ball 35 times, you might be 19 years old, but man, you got NFL players lined up by Clemson, and that's something to consider in terms of being worn down throughout the course of the game. And speaking of stats, one of the things that I found interesting is that even though Notre Dame is first in the ACC in points allowed, they are 8th in sacks and 12th in interceptions. So what that tells me is that Notre Dame's strength of their defense is to kind of do it the hard way, right? Force 3 and outs, get teams off the field in 3rd and short, and be able to do it that way, as opposed to maybe getting a pick, right, and flipping some field position and making a team one-dimensional, or getting a sack on 1st and 10, to throw a team off balance and get a drive knocked out. So I think that there's a lot of interesting pieces, especially with Trevor Lawrence back, that are Clemson's got to have some good chunk plays, and I think that with Trevor Lawrence they will have some good chunk plays. But
I think that's a good point. One of the biggest reasons they beat Clemson the last time was they were +2 in the turnover margin.
Mm-hmm.
And if Trevor Lawrence is in, I don't think they turn the ball over that much.
That is amen to that. What do you think happens? Let's talk playoffs real quick, as the quarter's going to be running out here. What do you think happens if either team wins? What do you think happens if Clemson wins in terms of playoff picture? What do you think happens if Notre Dame wins?
Honestly, not a whole lot. I think maybe they flip positions a little bit. I think the loser might drop to 4, possibly 5. I mean, you've already... I don't even know what to say. Like, it's unfathomable to even thinking about that. You could lose... If Clemson loses, for example, could have 2 losses and still be considered in the playoff. But I think they're good enough that they could be.
You bring up the interesting point. In my opinion, I think if Notre Dame wins, that is the less chaotic outcome because, and I know we're going to be talking about the SEC championship game here in a minute, but no one has given the ACC much credit, whether you think that's a do or not, and to look a one-loss Texas A&M, or potentially a one-loss Florida, or potentially a one-loss Alabama in the eye and say,